G'day and welcome back to Who Gives a Vote, second edition. And we've got a special guest today, Stuart.
Yes, we have Sotera Trevaskis, a seasoned campaigner when it comes to local, state and federal government elections. She's a political tragic, and we thought it was important that she come on here. In fact, she begged us if she could come on. So yeah, it's great.
Begged? I didn't know about the begging.
No, I actually didn't, but I did maybe plant the seed because I am a political tragic.
Oh, sorry, I begged for you to come on. Yeah, but that's okay. One of us begged, I'm pretty sure.
You know what? It's good to have some female representation in here today because, sometimes it gets a little bit smelly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually wore deodorant today, which is a good thing.
Thank you.
Hey, let's jump into it. We're going to get Sotera to run through who has officially nominated with the Electoral Commission. Sotera, can you go through those names for us?
Sure. So this was off the Electoral Commission website this morning. So for Mayor, George Seymour and Grant Reynolds, which is a newcomer. Don't know much about him, but he's nominated anyway.
Can I bring that up? Because it's great that we have a democracy, and I love that. But if you're going to run for the most important position on a local government, you want to be having some sort of community engagement involvement. When we look at his digital platform or his digital presence over the last month, he's been on Harvey Bay Buy and Sell, trying to sell a commercial freezer, a soldering iron and a set of bagpipes.
It's very interesting. It's very interesting that that's what you could find. That's all he has.
Terry, did you find anything? Do you know anything about him?
No, I don't know anything about Grant. All I can say is this is democracy in action. Doesn't matter who you are or what your digital footprint is. Everybody can have a crack at it.
And that's what I love. I love the fact that he can run, but in a democracy, I can also think it's stupid.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's look at Division 1 there, Sotera. You got James Hansen there.
Yeah, and he hasn't nominated as yet. Darcy Wayne and Michelle Byrne. Division 2, Phil Truscott, and Division 3, Paul Truscott, both running unopposed at the moment. Division 4, Daniel Beattie has nominated, as has Daniel Sanderson. Division 5, we've got Michelle Govers and Oscar Suarez. Now, Division 6 has quite a number of candidates. We've got Alicia Ann Wade, Catherine Forgan Flynn, Chris Pearce, he hasn't yet nominated, Robert Garland, Chris Mitzi, who is also not yet nominated, Lachlan Crosgrove. Division 7, we've got Andrew Broad, Jan Heggie and John Wayland. Division 8, Dennis Chapman and newcomer Phoenix Baker. Division 9, Greg Watts and Sarah Farage. Division 10, Rolf Light, Zane O'Keefe and Luke Strockner.
Strocknetter? Is it Strocknetter?
Oh gosh. Apologies, everybody. Yeah. And he hasn't yet nominated.
Yeah, look, put your comments down below and tell us how to say your names phonetically if we've got it wrong. Looking at those names there, Stuart, we've seen some new people join the race. They've still got until early next week, haven't they, to nominate?
Yes, it's the 13th of February. They've got 12 noon. If I was running someone's campaign, I would be telling them that they should have nominated already. Because what they may not realise is you have to complete a form on the ECQ website. You have to get 6 nominees from the area. If you go in with 6 nominees and one of them's not on the roll, you have to go back and get another one, so it can take time. You need to do a course online, which is an hour and a half long. And so there's a few moving parts. You don't want to leave it to the last day where then you have, if you make a mistake on the form, you're pretty much leaving your run too late. So I would say, if you haven't done it by Monday, you're not getting great advice. Okay,
all right. So I had to nominate someone this week.
Oh, you're on a nomination form?
Yes. You were as well this week.
Yes.
Somebody did some background research on you and told me.
I'm not a nominee of anybody, just wanted to say. And me being here, I'm not endorsing anybody or anything like that. Just wanted to put it out there.
All right. Well, I know yours. Do you know mine?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay. Did you check as well?
Of course I do. So, and I think that's something we would declare as we go on beforehand.
Sure.
Yeah. I nominated Robert Garland. Robert Garland's running for Division 6. He asked me for his nomination and I was very happy to give it to him because I am from Division 6 and I do get to vote.
Sure.
And I will be voting for Robert Garland.
Division 6 is getting hot. And this is a great thing that local politics can do for people, you know? It gives them interest. It gets people out there doing it, talking to people. Because it's a very social thing, realistically, isn't it, when you're running a campaign?
Well, democracy is something you've got to get close to people with.
Yeah.
And that's the great thing. I don't think you go wrong if you vote for Lachlan. And I don't think you go wrong if you vote for Robert Garland. And I actually think some of the best candidates in the race are all in Division 6.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, Division 6 is a hot one. I'm loving what we're seeing. Anyway, we'll move on from there at the moment. Hot topics, youth crime. I think we need more of it.
Youth crime.
Yeah.
Or the hot
well,
topic.
look, it gets them off the iPad. Right. That's... No.
Yeah, I think that's not appropriate. There is Samsung, so there's not just iPads.
You're right. Some people
Yeah,
use tablets.
We're not endorsed in any way by Apple. I just want to make that clear. Some people do like Samsung.
That's true. Yeah. No, look, this has become a topic for many candidates, but is it actually a local council thing, Stu?
It's not just local government, it's not just state government, it's the schools, it's the communities, it's the sporting organisations, it's a whole of community approach. But from a council perspective, yes, things like infrastructure that supports youth,
Yep.
The increase in CCTV surveillance. One of the best things that was done in one of the communities was in an area where kids were congregating and causing a nuisance. They put this really bright yellow light in, which showed pimples. And
wow.
Yeah, so it really made kids look ugly, and it just got rid of them out of that environment.
That's interesting.
So there's environmental things you can do to fix, areas of crime that council can consider. But at the end of the day, a healthy and a prosperous community will lower crime.
Okay, so if you were running, if you're a candidate,
Yeah.
would you be talking about this issue?
You talk about the issues that are concerning your community.
Yeah.
And if I was talking about it, first thing I wouldn't be talking about crime, as in youth crime, because I think it's much more complex than that. What I would be talking about is what I could do from a council perspective to build a healthy community for young people, for families, and for seniors, and make sure that everyone feels included and feels safe in their community. And I think the key message is safety.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very polarising.
It is.
And it's across
a
the
hard one.
social media because it's easy for, a handful of kids to film themselves and then it spreads like wildfire. So, community safety is something, as Stuart said, it's a really complex issue, but we all have a part to play. I don't think it's a state jurisdiction, state matter, but there's certainly things that the whole community can do, and we've got a lot of resources around the town, some great programs that are aimed at youth.
Yeah.
And if you want to win an election, unfortunately, fear is a very good seller. So if you're running for a position, if you're running to take someone's spot, or if you're in opposition running for state, you're probably going to say that crime's out of control. If you're an incumbent, you're probably saying it's not out of control. And that's just the reality of politics all the time. These issues and the doctrine of fear, I call it, is a very effective tool to push an election.
I don't like that. Don't like that.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, and nor do I.
Yeah.
And that's why when you ask me what I would do, that's how I would say it. But I'm just letting the reality of the situation is when people start talking about using fear as a commodity, they often get votes, and that's the unfortunate part.
Oh gosh. All right. Let's talk about 21-storey development. Can we get your thoughts before we kick off this one, Sotera? What do you reckon?
It's a big question, and it's a really hot topic. I'm not against development at all, and I don't have enough information, I suppose, to kind of call it one way or the other.
That's a big one, isn't it?
I do look at the pictures and wonder, wow, that's a bloody big...
It's a huge block because Stuart and I went out there the other day for the first time. So, and it is massive. So in case you missed it the other day, it's basically where the old koalas is, right down to the next block. You've got Smoke and Leather, and then the hub as well. So it's so big, that area in Torquay. Go and have a look, and just you'll see how big that spot is. Again, I'm still finding out information about it, Sotera, so I don't know myself, what I think about it. I think it's certainly interesting, and it's got a lot of people talking, especially a candidate for Division 6, Chris Pierce, he has been talking a lot about it, Stuart, and something has evolved off that, right?
Absolutely, and I guess this shows you how you need to be aware of what your involvement in submissions like this or an application like this. If you're going to run for council, you need to be aware of the legislation and the changing legislation, because I'm pretty sure that this amendment to the Local Government Act has just occurred recently. But for Chris, he's started his campaign and he's run his campaign with his singular vision being to vote against this development. The unfortunate thing for Chris is that he put a submission in, and under Section 150 of the Local Government Act, it states that a councillor has a prescribed conflict of interest in a matter if the matter is or relates to an application made to the local government and the councillor makes a written submission to the local government in relation to the application before it was decided. So in effect, what that means is because he's made an application before it's decided, if he were to get elected and if this matter was to be decided on at a council, which it will be within the first 2 months of the new council.
That's one of the new things with the council. Yeah.
So he will be excluded from the vote. He'll be excluded from interfering or influencing another councillor. He'll be excluded from and prohibited from talking to council staff about it. So effectively, for Division 6, if Chris gets elected and people voted for him on the basis that he was going to fight against this development, he has no vote.
So, Tara, it almost gets to the point there where you don't want to even state anything because you're worried that they're going to shut you down with things like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I can understand if an example would be you're a developer, you made application to council, and it could be that prescribed or perceived conflict of interest that it was something that you would benefit from. But in this, I think it's really important that local issues, and if he has tabled something to council, that's part of the accountability process, part of democracy. You know, it's all about transparency, and I think people are really starting to question a lot of these things. Yes, it's a governance process, but people are not. It doesn't give people the ability to fully interrogate, or investigate, or be part of that democratic process.
That befuddles me, Stuart. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, if you ask me what I think of Section 150 in relation to this matter, I think it's a bucket of pus. I think it's a terrible piece of legislation because if we just use Chris's example, here's a guy, and whether you vote for him or not, you know exactly what his position is.
Right.
And he is such an advocate of the position that he's made representation to council. Now, when you vote for him, you'll vote for him knowing that he's going to be fighting against this application. Now, you may have a different view and you don't vote for him, but if you do, that's the democratic voice there. There is no conflict in my view.
No.
Well, there is because it's legislated, but this legislation is completely ridiculous. What it's trying to do, in my view, is it's bureaucracy trying to prohibit democracy. Because that's what bureaucracy does the best. So in my view, I think it's an absolute sham that Chris doesn't get a vote because there is no question of his integrity on this matter. He has held the same position from the time it's been brought out into public. He should be able to fight for his right to be elected and he should be able to vote. But unfortunately, the legislation prohibits him from doing it.
So has Chris been informed?
Yeah, well, and that's another. It's another, I guess, a little bit of colour in this election. Is as I understand, he got a letter from the CEO advising him that if he were elected, he'd be prohibited on voting on this because of he's got a prescribed conflict. Now, if you were to ask me, we talk about council overreach, and I don't mean to be critical of the CEO, but I don't think it's appropriate that a CEO write a letter to a candidate advising him on a perceived conflict that could occur afterwards for two reasons. One, because Chris could go and get his own legal advice if he got elected and pursue and fight this. And also, what the CEO has effectively done is interpreted legislation in the anticipation of a result at an election, which I don't think he should do either.
All right, Stuart, what is your pick? We've got the front runners. In your opinion, this, again, as we said last time, this is kind of like fantasy football, okay? It's not people that you actually are backing as such. It's just who you think have got a good shot.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's not about whether I like them or not either. And I probably need to disclose here in my front runner, I'm still going to pick one for Division 6 because I think I can do that objectively, but I am a supporter of Robert Garland. So even with that in mind, I think I can objectively make a decision, but I'll allow you both to also tell me who you think your front runners are for Division 6. You're happy with that?
Yep.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Absolutely. So for Mayor, no question, George Seymour is still the front runner. Grant Reynolds, I don't think will make an impact at all. I think Grant Reynolds, and no disrespect, he might be a lovely guy. I actually think the informal vote is going to beat him.
I want to know more about his bagpipes that he had on Buy, Swap and Sell.
Did you buy them?
No, I want to know more about. Are
you want to know?
Are they still for sale?
Yeah, I mean, bagpipes are hard to play and tune, so that'd be an interesting topic to talk about.
Yeah, it's funny that is the research you found out. Like you were looking for information, you're like, well, he's had this for sale.
Yeah, well, that's all I could find. Yeah, and the commercial
He's
freezer
clean.
the commercial freezer didn't work.
Well, that happens sometimes. So George Seymour, yes, of course. Division 1, where are we looking there?
Division 1 is interesting. I think last week I said James Hansen would be the front runner. There's two things. One, James hasn't nominated yet. Okay. He probably needs to show his intentions. He's the current councillor. He should nominate as quickly as possible to allow people to decide whether they're going to run. So the fact that he's leaving it this late sort of gets in the way of democracy, I think. I think councillors should declare whether they're running early on, because if he's not, that opens the field and maybe allows somebody else to run who's a good candidate. So one of my views is that if you're running as a councillor, you should declare early.
Has he not declared?
No, he hasn't. So that I guess is interesting. Now, there are two people that I've had thrown at me in relation to Division 1. One is Darcy Wayne, who's a young Liberal National Party member, and he's running in that area. He seems to be quite active and engaged, and he looks like he could do well. But the overwhelming feedback I've had this week and looking into it, that Michelle Byrne is by far taking the lead in relation to Division 1, particularly in the Burham Heads area where Division 1 now includes. She's been very active and she's very engaged. She's been campaigning, I believe, between 8 months to a year. So she's been doing a lot of work.
Right. Division 2?
Well, Division 2 is Phil Truscott. He's still the only person nominated, so I can't really go past that. I have been told that there's another candidate running in Division 2. I can't find that person, so we'll have to leave that till next week.
All right. Division 3, you got another Truscott in there with Paul?
Yep, Paul Truscott. He's, in my view, he's going to win. I believe he's still the only candidate running. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Paul Truscott, he could potentially go unopposed. That's going to make it an interesting time for him. He'll be able to walk around and enjoy the weeks of campaigning without too much stress, which is good for him. And then you've got Daniel Sanderson in Division 4. He's still the front runner in my view. I think he wins, and he wins by a long margin. Division 5. I don't see much of an impact by Suarez, and unless somebody else comes out who's got a stronger community presence or a footprint, I think Govers wins. Division 6. Now, last week I picked Alicia.
Yes.
Alicia Wade.
Alicia's been out there doing a lot of stuff.
Yep. Yeah. And look, I think as far as a campaign goes, I think she's done an incredible job. Robert Garland has announced, as has Lachlan Cosgrove, so that opens the field to, I think, 5. There are 5 people running. What that means for me is one is probably the person with the biggest community footprint has got the most likelihood of winning because you're spreading the votes out a little bit. I think there is no one with a bigger social and community footprint in Division 6 than Robert Garland, so I pick him as the front runner, bearing in mind that I know Robert, I like Robert, he's a friend, but also I've got about 3 or 4, 5 friends in this list anyway. So I think that. What do you think, Sotera?
Oh, undoubtedly Robert's got He's very well known. If not for the bird calling, it's the work that he does in community. Or I love Harvey Bay. Yeah, he's very well known. And a politician once said to me, what counts is people, they're familiar with your face on the corflutes, they can see you in person, you're a real person to them, and then they're going to put you at the top of their list.
Yeah. And they need to recognise your name. And
yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
And it'll be the first time that he's running in his division where he lives, which is pretty exciting for him.
Yeah.
Division 6 is pretty hot one at the moment. I think it's good. I'm loving seeing what's happening in Division 6. The only thing I would say with some of the posters, and you've talked to me about this as well, so what do you call them? The heads on sticks, the corflutes, right?
Yeah.
So the corflutes. Some people have put up vote 1 at the top. It should be their names, right? That's
absolutely. It's the biggest mistake you can make.
Well, Alicia did that, right? She's got vote 1 at the top, and I was like, oh, I wish I could have told her before she did that to put the name. But she's been out there talking to people. She's been door knocking. People are very impressed by her. Lockie's really just started in the race, so he's got some work to do. Robert's obviously loved by the community, so he has that natural good head start because he's already been on council before and because a lot of people know what he does. So, I think they've all got a great shot at it. It just depends on where they go from here. Jan, we've got in Division 7. She's your pick.
Yeah, Jan Heggie. I got her name wrong last.
Yeah, she showed us how to pronounce
yeah,
it.
Yeah, and that's because I knew her as Jan Carlson.
Yes.
Before she just got remarried. So her name's now Jan Heggie. Look, I've got her as the front runner. I think it's narrowed.
Yep.
The feedback I'm getting is that John Whalen is doing very well. He's got an incredible connection to the community. He's going out, connecting with the community, engaging with community groups, as is Jan. And I think Andrew would be doing the same. But the feedback I'm getting is that, Jan Heggie is the front runner, but it's narrowing quickly.
Division 8?
Division 8, we've got now a young lad running, Phoenix Baker. He's running against Dennis Chapman. Dennis Chapman has got, he wins this. I'm glad to see Phoenix Baker. I think it's a good experience for him to then potentially run again.
Yep.
But I don't think he beats Dennis Chapman. I do believe that if there was a strong candidate running against Dennis Chapman, he could be at risk. For the simple fact is that straight after the last local government election, he ran for state politics and electors don't like that. He was, within 6 months, he was willing to walk out of his council job, which we elected him for, and to run for state. I think that if someone had prosecuted that properly and earlier, then he would be at risk, but I don't think he's at risk now unless there's someone with a good community footprint that can run against him.
All right. Division 9?
Yeah, Sarah Farage, she's still the front runner. There's only 2 nominated still.
Busy lady. I've been seeing her out and about. She's put a lot of signs up.
You're wearing her colour.
Yeah, I thought that's what you were wearing. Is it back on the Farage or no?
No. I think what I've seen from her has been great. I think a lot of people are liking seeing her out there. And she's running as an independent. So she was doing stuff with the Labor Party, but she's an independent these days.
And all local government elections, candidates are independent, except for the Brisbane City Council, where they run on a party ticket.
But in the sense of, we all know that people have a horse that they back.
Look, I think the reason... There's 2 things about Sarah I'll make an observation on. One is she's incredibly enthusiastic about this election and representing the community, and I think she's very driven. She'll be very, and I don't mean this as an insult, but she'll be very inexperienced and she'll be learning on the job. I think that's a good thing because in 4 years, if she runs again, she'll have 4 years experience as a councillor and be able to grow into the role. So if she's there for 8 years, she's the sort of candidate that you could see being there for 8 years and then maybe having a shot at a state seat or a federal seat. I think she behaves in the right way. She's vibrant, enthusiastic, intelligent. She can really articulate her thoughts. And I think she's receptive to the community. So I think if she gets elected, not only will she get elected, but I think you'll have a good candidate or good councillor in Division 9.
Yeah, I think she's all those things you described. She has a really strong sense of ambition about her. So I would be very, very surprised if she didn't go through the ranks of government. And this is the platform, the entryway for her to do that. So yeah, absolutely passionate. She's part of the Young Professionals Network. She speaks well. She's got some history under her belt doing some youth parliament. So I think perhaps a watch this space. More well known, I think, than
Greg Watts.
Greg Watts, I would say. And again, in politics, the name, the face, the more people know of you, the better chance you have.
And Division 10, how do we see that sitting?
Look, I think if you were to write a procedure on how to unseat an incumbent elected official, an incumbent councillor, Rolf Light is the perfect example of that. He obviously decided at least 2 years ago that he was going to run. He's invested probably more money than any other person on council or any candidate running, probably even the mayor, but he's also just done some grassroots campaigning. You'll see some radio advertising coming out. I think he's got a whole spectrum of information, and he's really pushing key issues, and he's been pushing those issues for a long time. Look, it's very rare that you sort of are very certain about a current councillor being dethroned, but I cannot see a path forward for Zane O'Keefe, and I think Rolf will not only will he win this election, but he'll win this election and he'll take a seat of authority on the new council because of his experience. You've got to remember that he was a councillor for 8 years. He served as deputy mayor, and he was the interim mayor during the most volatile period of council. So from that perspective, he'll be highly respected by the chamber, and I think they'll put him in a position of authority or power.
All right. Well, there's the picks for the week. Obviously, things change so quickly with this stuff. It's sometimes those seats that you think are like a sure thing, someone just comes through, bang, and it just changes like that, right?
Yeah.
And this could happen with a few of these seats. We've already seen some changes this week from your picks last week to this week.
And they'll change again. I think that's the beauty of campaigns, is and particularly local government campaigns, state and federal, they take a lot to turn around or to create a swing. You can pick up a swing in a day and you could be doing something really significant, and even the things that you could be doing, we might not be seeing. So they could be happening underground and they could be picking up a lot of votes that we're not seeing. It's completely different to state and federal. So in that respect, that's what makes it so exciting and interesting, and it's something that we'll be able to talk about every week.
Excellent. All right, we're going to wrap things up. Sotera, have you got anything to finish up? Any final remarks?
Not really. Thanks for having me on board, guys. It's been really fun, actually.
You're going to come back?
If I'm invited back, I will.
So you're not coming back. That's a shame. No.
We'll try not to keep her here all day like we have today next time. But yeah, it has been a lot of fun. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Stuart.
And it's going to be a big one. Look, in final thoughts, I think get out there if you're a candidate. Start meeting people. Start talking to people. Like, I think people really this year want to see what you can do, and they want to see who these people are. I think it's really, really important to be able to do that.
Absolutely, and I think we should start looking at election signage next episode.
Well, yeah. What's our favourite mill?
5mm. 5mm Australian core flute. Don't get
2 sticks?
Yeah, 2 sticks. But if you can use 3 sticks if you're putting 2 signs up.
Yeah.
And colours and photography, naming, branding, it's all part of the mix.
Yeah. So for anyone who's running the next election, your name goes on the top.
Top.
Your name.
Even put a sticker over it with your name. You could still do it. You could get rid of that vote one if you wanted to. It's up to you. All right, we're going to catch you next time. Shout out to Wuku.